episode 4 with Tom Hill and
Morning.
me, your host, Mr. Newman. So look, today we're going to get into this, but we could probably be talking about this all day. But we are going to tackle the minefield that is nutrition. We just had a quick chat, just literally like for a few minutes just before, and there's so much we can cover. But I think what's probably best if we just jump in and go with like what works maybe for our clients or what's our beliefs. And I was also thinking beforehand, like there's certain things that I've definitely done in the past that are just I look back and they're so stupid now. So let's talk about those because we're not imperious, right? We're not like, you know, I think fitness people see fitness professionals and think, oh, they've probably never done anything serious. Like, no, trust me, we've probably done it all.
Yeah, I mean, I used to. I wasn't in a great state a few years ago, so I used to drink too much and eat. I had a flat. I used to work abroad, and I had a flat with a friend for a year, and I cooked in the kitchen twice. So there's an indication of I was just eating loads of shit all the time. What have I tried? Okay, at one point, because I worked in the Middle East, a hot country, and there's lots of fruit juices. So I used to have a carton of guava juice for lunch because I thought that maybe, you know, that was less. I don't know, less something in it. I probably didn't even think less calories, but yeah, I thought you have a pint of juice for lunch.
Pint of juice for breakfast.
Yeah, yeah. And I did that for a few weeks. It's just weird thinking about that. Slim fast.
Have you done that?
Yeah. I would say I did that for about 4 days, then realised it was miserable.
All right. Yeah, let's roll with this then. Let's jump straight in and like just open it up. But by the way, like it feels a little bit vulnerable, like sharing some things that haven't worked, and some like almost like you feel a little bit silly. So it just goes to show that no one's above doing a few stupid things when it comes to nutrition and that idea of a place that you want to get to, right?
Yeah, obviously I knew what growing up. All our fruit and veg came from the garden. We even had sheep, so we could have a roast dinner with everything from the garden. Nice. So I was fed well, but I didn't think at all about food really. And like my parents would buy me a pizza on a Saturday, and I'd eat a whole pizza myself when I was probably 12 or 13. Which I guess then you're growing, aren't you? So you can use up loads of energy, can't you? So probably didn't matter so much. But I had enough knowledge, but I probably just didn't. I don't know. Didn't think about it enough, or probably.
What would you at like 12 to 13 years old?
Well, yeah. But I mean, like when I get older.
No,
but I mean, even when I got older, when I said I didn't think about it, I think I probably didn't want to face the fact that actually deep down I knew what I should be doing, which is I don't know, fruit, vegetables, all that kind of stuff, which. I did actually probably know. I did know.
Yeah, for me, I think going back, I think some of the silliest things I did was like cutting carbs. Like that was like I remember doing it for like 3 or 4 days. So it wasn't like extreme, but like 3 or 4 days without carbs, you're gonna start to feel a little bit lightheaded, and you're not gonna have a great amount of like energy. And I think I remember going to like a boxercise class and just almost feeling like I was gonna pass out. And I was like, this can't be good. Like this can't be good for you. So cutting carbs, and I probably spent in the past a lot of money on fat burners. Thinking I'm raising the heart rate a little bit more and burning like extra calories. But I'd say one thing though, and I think the placebo effect works. Like I don't think fat burners work, but if you've taken one and it makes you go and train harder or it gets you in the gym because you're taking it, I think the placebo effect can work. But then you might as well just take a sugar pill. You know, the fat burners aren't doing anything. You're then going out and exercising and eating better.
I bought some of those as well. You remind me years ago, but I wasn't tracking my weight. I wasn't tracking my food. But I thought, you know, I'll buy these because they were on a website that I bought peanut butter and stuff from.
Yeah,
and they were there, and it said, and I thought, you know what, it's not going to hurt me. I didn't really know what was in them, so you know what, it could have. It might have hurt me actually. I don't know. But yeah, I took them without any real knowledge, and it made me feel kind of, I might be losing a bit of fat, even though I wasn't measuring myself.
Yeah, nor was I actually.
So,
but you can look in the mirror though, and like obviously tell some differences. But yeah, if you're gonna actually measure progress, it's probably good to like either track your weight or your measurements. So yeah, look, we've all done some silly things. By the way, if you are tuning in, just give us a shout in the chat. And also, you can always fire any questions. Anyone that's on live, always feel like you can fire any questions to us, and we'll obviously do our best to answer. I always believe that when it comes to nutrition or diet, whichever way you want to talk about it, I always like to use the word nutrition because I think diet has so many negative associations with it, whereas the word diet is just actually the food you eat. But I think when you think about nutrition, it just feels like you're, I don't know, eating better. Nutrition just sounds better. Like I'm getting more nutrients in my food. So I always like to say nutrition, but I always believe that, especially for clients in the first few weeks that we work with, raising awareness is the key. Is that what you think?
So yeah, same kind of thing. I mean, I don't prescribe any diet plans at all to my clients. We start off at the beginning, and it's just about kind of making small improvements and saying, well, what can we do this week easily to improve things? And I think 9 times out of 10, everyone I speak to knows kind of 2 or 3 things they can do to improve. And I think if you make an improvement, you succeed in doing that improvement, that small thing, and you think, do you know what, I've done that, I've made an improvement, and I feel a little bit better. And it's like, what could I do now? I could do this, and it's like just a slow kind of, I guess, increasing confidence that they do know how to look after themselves. Then obviously me and you and whoever, we can help with more detailed knowledge if they need it. But at the beginning, certainly it's like, okay, are we drinking enough? Are we having any fruit and vegetables? Well, just all those basic stuff that we all know. I don't think there's anyone watching who doesn't know that. And it's just about saying, I'm going to do it. I'm going to see what happens, and I'm going to feel a bit better. What would happen if I did a few more things?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think a lot of people maybe look for like the perfect diet plan or like this silver bullet that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, and nobody should be looking for a perfect diet plan anyway, because the chances are you're not going to stick to it. It's not going to be the food you enjoy eating, and you'll do it for a period of time, and when you finish it, you'll be like, I can't wait to go back to my normal food, and then the weight will go back on, and it's just not a good place to be. And I think, yeah, I agree. You're right. Like 9 times out of 10, like, yeah, of course, you can always learn more knowledge, but the basics of, if you look at a 2-day food plan and you've got, I don't know, like Mars bars and trips to McDonald's and 5 coffees and donuts because you're low on energy because you're tired, and you've got all those high sugar and high fatty foods which we crave when we're tired. It's like you know that you could probably make better choices and get more fruit and veg into your diet, and it's a relatively simple change, but probably takes a bit of more thinking and a bit of preparation time to get to that place to actually feel a little bit better. Like, and it happens quick, doesn't it? You see it happen like quickly.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks of just small improvements can make a massive difference to how people feel. And certainly once you start improving the food quality of what you're eating, so kind of more kind of natural fruit and vegetables and good food, your body does go, oh God, it does feel good. I mean, we are literally created every 7 years, our bodies are totally new. Is that right?
I think it is pretty much, yeah.
So we're literally created by the food we put in. Our bodies are the product of that. So it's amazing how quickly that can have an effect. And I suppose if you spiraled it out and said, you know what, in 7 years' time, if I really slowly improve my diet, my body's going to be in such a better state than it would be. Although that does take a little bit of a leap of faith in going, in 7 years' time I'll feel great. Whereas we do things a bit quicker than that.
Yeah, I think like what I remember this, and I think what we, relatively speaking, it's all, again, like we talked about this before, like all these things are relatively simple, but we're complicated as people and the psychology behind it. And I watched the program, I actually didn't know this, and basically what they did, and this was really interesting because I think this is almost the flip side to eating good fruit, good veg, that we'll want it more because we know how good we feel, we'll get more energy, and when you're feeling good, you want more of that feeling, so you do more of it. Whereas the flip side is that if we eat higher fat foods and higher sugar, really palatable foods, we all like them, our actual brainwaves change. Because they basically scanned this guy's brain. It was with like a doctor, and he was like, went on a 30-day sort of high fat, high sugar diet, basically. It really not good. And a certain amount of brainwaves, sort of like day one, let's just like for easy maths, like 10 brainwaves are sending signals that you crave those foods. By day 30, there was like 1,000.
Oh,
So
wow.
the more you eat them, the more you crave them. And of course, we kind of know a little bit about that. You know, that's the way McDonald's and all these places work. They put those tastes in that make us crave us the more. But it actually does work in terms of science. You create more brain waves telling your stomach and your brain to go and eat more of those types of foods.
That's mad, isn't it? That is, yeah. That actually,
You literally change your brain waves and your thinking to crave more of those types of foods.
I didn't know that.
It's scary, really.
It is, and I suppose that's an indication of why sometimes we find it really hard not to stop and say no. Again, if I think about my past, I used to eat loads of takeaways and stuff like that. So um, maybe my brain was kind of pulling me towards that a little bit.
It would have been. The more you eat them, the more you're going to crave them.
I guess that's an indication of how you doing things slowly and steadily is probably the best way. Because thinking about, you mentioned the word diet, even when I talk to people and they say, "Well, I'm going on a diet," even that phrasing, going on something, it's kind of I'm going to do something different to what I usually do, and it's, I think, yeah, just thinking about it's my diet, it's what I eat, and I'm not going to massively change. I suppose we've got Christmas and then January coming up now, haven't we?
Yeah.
Where again, all the Christmas food, all the awesome Christmas food, like there's nuts, kind of like salty, sweet nut things. Oh my gosh, I have to hide those. And then January happens, and I suppose maybe if your brainwaves change so quickly, what did you say? 30 days was that test?
Honestly, it was unreal.
I mean,
you might be able to find it, guys, on YouTube. I can't remember. It was a doctor, and basically he did this it's a TV program. It might have been like BBC One, and they
was it those twins? Those.
No, I don't think it was. It may have been. I can't remember. It was a few years ago now, and it was just so like eye opening. So you might be able to find it on YouTube if you said doctor eats high fat, high calorie or high like sugar food for a month, and you might be able to find it. Yeah, I think one thing like you touched on there, but like, you know, talking about diet, and I think it does have such a negative like attachment to it, because we always just think of like, you know, restriction and eating foods you don't want to do, and then you're on it, and then some point you're off it. I think what a lot of people struggle with, or they don't necessarily do, they don't look at people that are successful with keeping themselves in shape. And if you spoke to anyone that's always maintained a healthy body weight, if you said to them if they've ever been on a diet before, they'd probably all say no. Mm-hmm. Never been on a diet before. They've just had a good balance of, I guess, like they probably do eat healthy. There's a reason people stay in pretty good shape. It's not a lot. Sometimes, you know, you can have a high metabolism and you get genes, but 9 times out of 10, it's because they have a good balance of moving their body and like a quite good balanced diet. You know, there's no real. It's the evidence shows that they actually do those things.
I suppose it is. Yeah, it is about balance and not going too crazy with anything. If it's on the both things, you can go too much one way and too much the other way, can't you? And like there are some crazy diets out there, aren't there? There are some things which are sound really difficult. And that's like we mentioned about the no carb one, Atkins or the keto diet. I'm sure there are people watching that love it and find it fantastic, whatever, as long as you enjoy it. But everyone I've spoken to, when they've tried those things, it sounds really hard, and they never say I'm really enjoying it. It's like it shouldn't be this difficult.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, those diets like the Atkins and the keto, you know, you're not really allowed to eat any carbs. And I've not met many people that don't like eating bread and pizza and, you know, cakes and sugar. I've not met many people that enjoy those types of foods. It's funny as well. I think the more you restrict those foods, and we know this for a fact, like the more you want those foods and crave those foods. So, you know, look, of course, it can work for certain people, and maybe you have triggers around certain foods, which again is probably like a deeper issue that we don't have time to cover on this morning. But Yeah, you don't need to either. Like you can absolutely have a healthy balance. And I think again, like I think where people potentially go wrong is that trying to get that perfect diet. It doesn't exist. I mean, in the last week, and I'm going to do a little post about this, I've had like a donut, I've had a chocolate brownie, I had a cooked breakfast Sunday morning. I really like the Lidl's bakery lately, like the Lidl's chocolate croissants. You know, so you can have a few of those things here and there. And I like the principle that 80% of the time you have is what for you a healthy balanced diet. With 20% of the time you have some higher calorie foods that are like that little bit like, you know, that we all like, that are a little bit like tastier, you know.
Yeah. It doesn't break the bank, does it? It doesn't. You don't feel like you're living a life of restriction or avoiding things, because that's not, well, for me anyway, that's not the way I want to live. Kind of
No.
feeling like I'm missing out, and I
And
suppose
also
it's
like you don't have to. Like that's the thing, like you don't have to, you know. Like I think, you know, of course, if you want to be in like your best shape possible and you're going to get, I don't know, perform and get on the stage and compete, like yeah, you have to be super strict. But if you're looking to, you know, just like lose a little bit of weight to feel better, to get a bit more energy, you don't have to be that strict. You really don't. And the more strict you are, the more you do want to go off the rails a little bit at the weekend, because you're just having that over restriction and telling yourself you can't have certain things when you absolutely can. It's also healthy, like you say, to have them. So it's a
yeah,
good thing to implement a few higher calorie foods. I don't say treats because I don't think that's a good way of thinking about it, or cheat days and things like that, or cheat meals, because you're not cheating on anything. It should just be incorporated. And I like to think about it like flexible eating,
yeah.
flexibility.
But it does. I mean, everyone watching might be saying, "Well, this sounds easy. It sounds easy," but I suppose it does. It takes a little bit of a leap of faith to go. I'm going to make small changes, and I'm going to commit and maybe move away from the standard or what they've learned or what they've tried in the past. It does take a little bit of leap of faith, and I know we spoke a little bit before about we talked about just being okay with increasing your knowledge about things as well, and thinking like, I'm going to learn. Because if you're struggling with maintaining a healthy diet and maintaining a healthy weight, then there has to be some learning around it. And like what I'm doing now is not working, and it's like I need to find out why. So there has to be some learning behind, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. It's like anything, you know, if you want to get good at something, you have to put an element of work in. You know, if I want to improve my tennis game, I've got to get on the tennis court and start. You know, my backhand's not as good as my forehand, so I need to practice my backhand a lot more. And if you're a football player and your left foot's weak, you got to get out and practice with your left foot, right? So there's an element of work. So I think if you want to improve your nutrition, and it doesn't have to be boring. I think we have this mindset maybe, oh God, I can't eat these foods and I'm going to learn it's going to be boring. I have to eat salads. But it's like the more you actually learn, the more you realize you can have quite a lot of flexibility, and you're just getting an education. I mean, you don't really need to go into any depth. I think the best thing you can learn is just getting a real good understanding and idea of how many calories are in foods. Like you
Yeah,
don't need to know the macros and the protein so much, just knowing how many calories are in foods, so you can look at a meal and go, I reckon that's about 800, that's about 400, that's about 600. So then you've got that knowledge. Do you know what? Because then it comes down to choices. Do I want the 800? Do I want the 1,000? Do I want the 400? You've got that choice to make then.
and you're aware of making that choice. And we spoke about a little bit about restaurants, didn't we? Because
Yeah.
restaurants over a certain size, I don't know if people have noticed it, they have calories on menus now, and I have to admit it has made me change some of my decisions. And
Me
I
too.
have looked, I've looked at food
Yeah.
and gone, what? I mean, are they injecting calories into this food to make? And it's like, okay, I have to make, then I can make a choice in full awareness of what it is. I'm gonna have that, or I'm gonna have this. And like I said to you before we jumped on the call, I was at one restaurant, and main menu, one main course was 450 something calories, another main course was 1400 and something calories. Now, there's nothing wrong with either of those things. There's nothing wrong with having the higher calorie meal, but doing it in full knowledge and going, do you know what? That's okay. Over the week, it fits in, because
Mhm.
maybe I'm going to be a bit um, kind of eat a little bit less this day. Maybe I'm going to have, I don't know, I'm going to have a lighter breakfast and a lighter lunch to make sure that I can, and then it all fits in.
Yes, it's quite eye-opening actually sometimes when you go to the restaurants, and I like to think I've got a pretty good idea of how many calories are in certain things, and then you get to the menu and you're like, dude, there's quite a lot in this one. So like, do I want to almost use a lot of my, because you get a certain amount a day, like almost a bit like money that we've got to spend in terms of like energy. So it's like, do I want to have 1,500 on my dinner and then maybe a beer or two? So I'm then having like 2,000 calories, almost my daily limit in one meal. But at least I think at least you've then made that educated choice. You know, you're making that informed choice of, yeah, it's this amount, I'll take it, or it's this amount. Actually, do you know what? I might have the meal that's 1,000 calories, and then I can have 4 beers. You've got that choice to make, and I think it's a little bit of education. Then you can make those choices.
What do you think if people are in there going, that makes me, if I see calories on the meal, it's spoiling my meal and it makes me feel bad? What do you think of that?
Like I said, I think with certain things like that, I think that can potentially be a little bit of a deeper issue. If it's going to make you feel bad, there's probably some other things going on under the surface that are going on. Because at the end of the day, it's calories are calories. It's how we measure our foods. So there's no getting away from it. That's we have a certain amount each day. If we eat more than our body needs to burn, then we put on weight. If we eat less, we lose it. So I personally think having the education and the option of knowing that education is always a good thing. But of course, there might be people with like certain struggles. But I think that can be a much deeper issue, which is and it's hard to cover, especially on like this morning. But you could then go into that in a bit more depth. But like none of this is easy. It's quite hard, and it's quite a hard subject to talk about too, because there's an emotion with body image and things like that. So there's also lots that go into it.
Food's not something you can chop out either. It's like things like I don't know, smoking or drugs or something else that's bad for your health. You can a lot of things you can just get rid of and go. And I know it's again saying if you would want to try and give it smoking, it's difficult to give it smoking. I know that.
Yeah.
But it's like you don't need them in your life. Like food, you do need. And there's lots of emotional attachments to food. If I think about I had a client who absolutely loved pineapple. I mean, it's like he loved it, but it gave him horrendous heartburn. Like it made him feel sick, like pain here. So he's like damaging it. It's like he would eat it and it would feel absolutely shit for hours and hours.
A bit like people that have gluten intolerance. They sometimes will go, do you know what? I just love pizza so much. I'm going to take it on the chin.
Well, the pineapple thing, eventually I said, why is that? He said, well, I just like it. I said, well, there must be a reason why. And he came back and I said, when he was young, he used to have, his grandma used to give him pineapple. So it was this really kind of emotional attachment to him spending a lovely time with his grandma, who probably, I'm guessing, was like my grandma grew up in the war. I doubt you had pineapple. I wouldn't have had pineapples in the war. So having the idea of having maybe for her, it was like a sign of how fantastic the world was now compared to how it was. So she would show her love with giving her grandson this pineapple. But so he's carried on, kind of causing him pain. I mean, if you spend your life with acid reflux, that can cause lots of long-term health problems if you're not careful.
Let alone how uncomfortable it is at the time.
Yeah. So it's like emotional attachment to food is there, and I suppose part of it is recognizing I'm emotionally attached to this, and I see it. I do it now. I mean, I recognize it now. Sometimes I love a pie. I love pie. Now, I think because it's one of my dad's favorite things. He loved a pie, like a steak pie and a pie. He loved it. So it's like I like that as well. But also, it doesn't make me feel great, and also some of the side effects for my family also aren't very good. So it's like I will do it, but I'll do it not. I like. Do you know what this is? This is an emotional pull towards this rather than just me wanting food because I'm hungry.
Yeah, of course. And there's quite a lot of those things, like I've often thought about times when like I've been younger and, you're not allowed to leave your dinner table till you eat all your foods and then you can get dessert. So when we get a full meal of foods in our minds, of course we don't want to leave any foods, and food used to be a lot more precious, and again, we talked about this before, going back to the cavemen times, you'd have a certain amount of food, you eat it all because you wouldn't know when your next meal was. But our brains haven't evolved that much, so we still see that meal and want to eat it all, even when we're satisfied and we're full. Maybe we overeat, and it's our minds that's telling us to do that. And again, like, it can go back to childhood of not allowed to leave the table till I eat all my foods. And I think it's actually something that I get my clients to do, is have a meal, and when you feel satisfied, actually stop and actually leave some foods, because like it's actually a step forward. You don't always have to eat everything that's on your plate, like, and that, again, it's a bit of a like mindset shift to do that, because food used to be a lot more precious. We are definitely going to eat another meal. So interesting what you said about, because my client said that to me once as well, like, it's not like giving up like alcohol, and you can have some addictions and drugs and different things. Like, you have to eat, and normally 3 times a day. And I'd never actually thought about that till I think it was my client a few years back called Andy, and he was like, the thing is with food, you have to eat. And I was like, I'd never thought about it like that.
Yeah, and it's so we have to find and say, if you're not happy with the way you are and the way you're eating, and then it is definitely worth finding a way through and thinking, do I want to spend a little bit of time learning about it more than I want to be the way I am now? And I hope it's I want to spend a bit of time working on it, because it's important. You want to live a long, happy life, and like for me, I've got children. I want to show a good example to my children. I want them to be kind of messed up as, I know, as what's the phrase about parents fucking the kids up or something. I want to give my kids a minimum amount of problems. I'm not sure how to phrase it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. I think everyone knows what you mean.
Yeah. So it's example that I show. It's important that I show an example of how I believe is a good way to live, and try and show them that they don't have to finish their food. Although sometimes I do. As a parent, I'd still do it because my parents told me a million times. So I'm like, why am I forcing food down my? Eat your chips and sausages. I'm like, what am I doing? Forcing my children to eat crap food.
All right, I'm just aware of time. This has flown. I want to give anyone listening just a couple of things maybe to take away and work, and I'm sure they've got some takeaways. One thing I do with my clients, because I think a lot of the time we don't want to like obviously overwhelm people. And I think sometimes when it comes to nutrition, people just get overwhelmed, because if you typed in diet, you'd get like a million hits, and the amount of times I spoke to a client and I said, what have you tried? And they're like, I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this. I'm always researching, doing all this. And it's like, imagine if you, instead of doing like research into different diets, learn more about like nutrition to get that education. And then one thing I always get my clients, and I want them to really think about this, I'm always saying to them, biggest bang for your buck when it comes to food in every meal. So what I mean by that is something that's going to keep you full, because then you're not going to be snacking as much in between meals. So you want something that's going to keep you full. So you don't always want the lowest calorie option. So it might be 300 or 400 calories, but if it's not going to keep you full, you're then going to want to snack in between meals. So something that's going to keep you full.
Yeah.
Something that isn't crazy high calories, because if you're having a breakfast and you're getting 1,000 calories straight away, you're not leaving yourself with a huge amount for the rest of the day. So I'm always saying like something that's going to keep you full, but not like crazy high calories. And then when I mean bang for a buck, I mean like a decent amount of protein as well. That again isn't high calories. So I don't know, like 300-400 for breakfast, good amount of protein that keeps you full till lunchtime. The same sort of thing for lunch till dinner. So you're minimizing snacking. It's also quite an easy thing to remember, right? Biggest bang from a buck. Because you could have something like I had this morning, I'm guilty of that one. I had a chocolate croissant. It's probably 400 calories. It's like eating air. Whereas I could have probably had 2 or 3 eggs on toast, minimal butter and I don't know, like some toast, some carbs for 400 calories. It'd probably keep me full till lunch. But I chose to have the chocolate croissant, which is basically air. 400 calories gone. I'm not full. I'm probably going to have to eat something else a little bit later, but I've made that choice today. Whereas probably the smarter choice would have definitely been the eggs on toast.
Yeah. And I suppose in terms of learning about what calories inside food, I suppose one thing I do is I get people to put their breakfast in first, because it's usually the easiest one to do. It's maybe similar most days.
When you're tracking calories, that is.
Yeah, because he's saying about you mentioned about kind of get a meal of between 300 or 400 calories. There might be some people out there thinking, I don't know what's in them. And I suppose it's just starting off again, not thinking, right, from this day, I'm going to track everything, every single thing that I eat from now. I'm going to download my fitness pal and I'm going to track everything. Again, that's going to be probably going to be too much.
Yeah.
Again, just starting small and thinking, right, I'm a long-term, it's a long-term thing. I'm a long-term project. I've got another 40 years on this world and I don't want to be the way I am now. Right. So today I'm going to put one thing in my fitness pal and go, oh, that's interesting. I've increased my knowledge. There's, I don't know, 60 calories in an apple. Great. And now I know what is in an apple. Brilliant. And I don't know, you could do that. You could build up your knowledge just slowly but surely, but just thinking, right, I'm going to use this to learn and almost get like a PhD eventually knowledge of what's in my food. Then, like you said earlier, I can actually look at a meal and go, tot it up and go, I know what's in this roughly, and this fits in. Do you know what? I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to feel good about it.
Yeah, look, I agree. Like, I think everyone's got their views on tracking calories. Some people have tried it and maybe they've struggled. Some people are religious with it. Other coaches have got their views. But I don't think there's many coaches or personal trainers or anyone in the industry that say you maybe want to do it long term, like 2-3 years time. But I think if you did track and get that education and get a good idea for what calories, are in foods and drink too. Let's not remember, like, alcohol can be quite expensive, very expensive, especially like beers and ciders and wine and things like that. So then if you
coffees, like the creamy coffee things, again, they taste great, but again, just learn what's in them.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap up with this thing, last thing. I remember because tracking, like, I don't know how long it's been around now. It's been quite a while. And I remember one client, she was so cool, she's so nice, but she went to the cinema. And for some reason, she bought nachos. She hadn't tracked, so I was like, "Oh, good." Like, she was telling me about it. She was like, "I couldn't believe it when I checked afterwards. It was like 1,500 calories." She was like, "I bought the nachos thinking it'd be like the best option," and like, it was just like, and that's just an example of like just not knowing, Whereas if you're tracking, you're getting that little bit of an education, then you make that choice consciously.
Absolutely.
All right. That 32 minutes has flown. Again, yeah, dude. Like, I mean, like, we again just a bit like, but like the last three, we could probably continue talking about this for a long time because, like I said in the title, nutrition can be such a minefield for people.
Yeah,
there's so much.
Might take a bit of time. Might take a bit of time just to learn. I mean, I didn't know very much at all, and it was really slowly just trying things out, having a look in and just seeing what's in it. And then like you say, you don't have to do it the rest of your life. This is about when it comes to food, you're going to be eating the same type of foods roughly for the rest of your life. It's like once I know what's in all the foods, majority of the foods I'm eating, do you know what? You might not need to do it anymore. And then you've just increased it and you're able to do it easily. That's the aim.
Nice. All right. I reckon we wrap up there because we've done a good half an hour, if not a little bit more. We have done a little bit more. So look, guys, again, hopefully you've got some value and you've got some stuff to take away that you can implement into your eating and your lifestyle. And as always, we always appreciate any comments, any feedback, and we look forward to doing episode 5 next week.
Right, man.
All right. Have a good week, mate.
Cheers, Mike. See you soon.
Bye.